Daf Mem Dalet Amud Beis will begin Mem Dalet Amud Aleph, 2 lines from the bottom with the 2 dots. Amar Yehuda Amar Rav Mita Sheyach L'Mo is a bed that was designated to have money put on it, also l'taltla. It becomes muksa, and you can't be metaltal on Shabbos. Meaning, even if it was never used for money, the mere designation that it was designated to have money put onto it, according to the Havarim the Gemara at this point, we're learning that it becomes muksa. The bed becomes muksa, and therefore it's also to be metaltal for the entire Shabbos. The bed becomes, the way Rashi seems to be learning, is therefore kli shemalachta le'isser. It's used for money. It's used for something which is osir. And it's a kli shemalachta le'isser, which is muksa. However, that type of a muksa is mutar l'tzar guf mekayma. Taisus is learning that no, it's like katsoisers. It becomes muksa within itself. It is only usage. Its usage is for a dover which is osir, and it's also even l'tzar guf mekayma. In any event, the Gemara at this point seems to be learning that the designation, the mere designation that it's going to be used for money, makes the mita, makes the bed, which normally is not muksa, makes it muksa. So Rav Yachma Yisem is metaltlin erechanish v'lo yasham. So the Brisa says that you're metalta nerechanish v'lo yasham. So Frekt Rav Nachman Yitzchak, it says metaltlin nerechanish, but not an old one. So it says that you can't be metaltal a ner which was used. The ner that was used is muksa machmas mius. It was used, it's muksa machmas mius, and therefore it's muksa. But it says only if it's yasha. Now, if it's a ner chodash, if it's a ner, a new one, it's not muksa. You could be metaltal it. So apparently, even if it was designated, it's still mutter to be metaltal. It's dafka a ner yashan, which was already used. Now, if the mere designation would make it muksa, then it shouldn't say that a yashan, one which was used, it should say one that was even designated, even a ner chodesh if it was designated for it. But it says a ner chodesh is mutter, and not a yashan because it was used. So l'chayr, we are going over here according to the sheet of Rav Yehuda that holds a muksa. That's machmir muksa. Because according to Rav Shimon, he holds that a ner yashan is not muksa. He doesn't hold a muksa machas miyah. So this Bryce l'chayr is going according to Rav Yehuda, and even according to Rav Yehuda, the designation does not make it muksa. So when Rav Yehuda, Marav says mita shiyach l'mo, even though he's going according to the sheet of Rav Yehuda, you see that Rav Yehuda also, who's machmir by muksa, does not hold that the designation muksa. Uman ner, the Gemara continues, uman ner de lahachi avir. A ner is made, it's used to have a fire, to have a fire burning from it. It's used for a davar muksa. It's huksa le'isr, even b'chol. So uman ner de lahachi avir ki lo yihid l'gba shari. If it was not used, it's mutter shorla taltula, to be metaltalet. Mita de lav lahachi avira, mita med, the normal use of it is not for ladavar aser. It's not for a muksadika purpose. Lo kol sheken, then certainly would say that the hazmana, just designating it, would not make it muksa. So that can't be the pshat. It can't be that the yichud alone would make it muksa. Ella, the Gemara says, this is the pshat. Amar Rav mita sheyachta l'mois. A mita that was designated for mois, hiniach alei mos. If he already used it for mos, it was designated and it was used for mos also l'taltal. Then it's muksa on Shabbos. You cannot be metaltal on Shabbos. That makes it muksa. Lo hiniach alei mos. But if it was designated, but it was not used, lo hiniach alei mos, mutar l'taltal. Then it's mutter to be metaltal. It has to be a designation with a use. Now, lo yichda l'mois, if it was not designated for that use, just because it was used during the week for moas, if it was not set aside for that purpose, it doesn't make it muksa. However, lo yichda l'mois yesh l'mois, if there's money on it, if there was money on it, bein hashmosha is also l'taltal. Then it's also to be metaltal. Then it's also metaltal for the whole Shabbos. because we say that migadik soil ben hashmashos, then it's a soil kuliyama. Ein alo mos muter lataltal. If there's no money on it, then it's muter. But v'hu shelo hayo ben hashmashos, so long as her money was not on it ben hashmashos. Meaning, if it was designated for money, it's a bed. A bed normally is not muksa. A bed is not normally used for a davar asa. If it was designated for to be used for money, and it was already used for money, it becomes a davar that becomes a purpose for the bed. It becomes a redesignated purpose. It's been redirected from a bed to be used for sitting on, etc. It's used for money. It becomes a kli that's used for money. If it was a designation and if it was used. If it was only used for money, it was not designated just because it was used during the week. If there's no money on it, ben hashmashos, there's no money on Shabbos, then it's not muksa. However, if there was money on it, and even if the money was there just ben hashmashos, if there was money, then we say migdas katsoy ben hashmashos is katsoy lekula yoyma. It becomes muksa for the whole day. If there was no money on it ben hashmashos, the entire ben hashmashos, even if it had money on it during the week, it is not muksa. So this is the shita of Rav Yehuda, and he holds migdas katsoy ben hashmashos is katsoy lekula yoyma. But if you have a mita, which is a dover, which itself is not normally used for a dover ha'asur, in order to become muksa, that we say whether or not there was money on it, even if there was no money on it, ben hashmashos is muksa for the entire Shabbos. That's only if it was designated and used. But if it was not designated, then if there was money on it, ben hashmashos, it's migadik soilak ben hashmashos, it's soilak kuliyama. If there was no money on it, the entire ben hashmashos, and it was not designated for that use, then it's muter. Amro lo Malsi Rav Eliezer. Yes, the following question. If you have a wagon and you have a wheel, bisman shi nishmetes, if it's not mechuber, if it's not fixed to the wagon, it's a wheel that can be removed, it's taken apart, it's put back together, then ein chibur lo. It's not considered part and parcel of the wagon. It's not considered as part of the same kli as it, and therefore we say just because if the gola became tomei, the wheel will not become tomei. If the wheel become tomei, the wagon won't become tomei. It's not considered one and the same. They're considered two separate kelim. Ve'enim deresimo, and it's not measured with it. A wagon we're talking about, it's a kli eitz. A kli eitz, to become tomei, it has to be a kli which is metaltal mole v'rekan. That it's not so large, it's small enough that if it's full, you can carry it. You can carry it not only if it's empty, but you can carry it mole as well, mole v'reika. Meaning, if it's so big that our boim sor more, if it's so big that it would displace a volume of water of 40 sor or more, that size of a kli is considered to be one that if it's full, it's too heavy to be carried. And there it's not makabel tumah. So in measuring the size of the wagon, if the wheel is mechuber to it, is attached to it, then we say it's part and parcel of it, and it's nimdendesen, imo. And when we measure the size of it, and we say if it displaces our boim saw of water, it will be considered too big to be makabel tumah, you take into account the wheel as well. But if it's not mechuber to it, if it's something that's nishmetas, that you can take it apart and put it together, then it's not measured to it to assess this volume of displacing 40 saw. Ve'ein matzal sima boil mace, and it's not matzal boil mace. If you have something which is not makabel tumah, and for instance, if you have the wagon which is too large to be makabel tumah, it's more than 40 saw, it displaces more than 40 saw, then the wagon is not makabel tumah. So if something is on the wagon and the wagon is over an oil mace, it's over the mez, there's a chatzitza. That the base of the wagon is a separation, it blocks the tumah from rising above. So if there's an item on top of the wagon, it's tar. It doesn't become tomei because the wagon, which is in this case too large to be makabel tumah, it's not makabel tuma, and it's a chatzitza between the kever, between the mess, and the item in the wagon. But the wheel, if it's nishmetes, if it's not fixed to the wagon, if it's something that you take apart and put together, then it's not part and parcel of the wagon. It is makabel tuma. So if something is in the wheel, we're talking about a wheel over here that has a base kibble, that has a hollow, something that you can put into, but the wheel will be makabel tuma. It's not considered part of the wagon. It will be makabel tuma, and therefore it is not a chatzitza, and it will not block the tuma, and it will not prevent the item that's in the wheel from being makabel tuma. Ve'in goyer moisa b'Shabbos. And you cannot drag the wagon on Shabbos. If there's money in this wheel, then the wheel is considered a boss's l'davar also, and it's muksa. And therefore you cannot drag it because in itself is muksa. Now, Taisus explains, if it would be machuber to the wagon, then you would say, just because there's money in the wheel is considered part of the wagon. And if there's no money on the wagon, then the wagon cannot be considered to be a bosses l'davar also. It's only a bosses if the money is on the main part of the wagon, of the cleat, not an ancillary part. So if the wheel was considered, machuber was considered part of the wagon, just because there's money on the wheel, it would not make the entire wagon also to carry, to move, and it would not make the wheel a bosses l'davar also, for the davar muksa. But since it's nishmetes, since you take it apart, it's not considered part of the wagon. It's considered to be an independent kli, and therefore the wheel itself is considered a bosses l'davar also. So ein goyer noisa b'Shabbos, you can't drag it on Shabbos b'zman sheyesh lo mois, when there's money on it. But that's when there's money on it. Ha ein aleha mois shori. But if there's no money on it, then it's mutter to drag it. Afal pigav dahavala bein hashmashos, even though it was on it bein hashmashos. So apparently we do not say migo de iskatsoy lebein hashmashos iskatsoy lekula yoimam. From the Gemara, here Rav Shimon the Leslie Muksa. Yes, you're right. We do see from here that we don't say migo de iskatsoy lebein hashmashos lekula yoimam. But this over here, this Bryce is going according to Rav Shimon, who's making a muksa. He does not hold migadas katsoy. But Rav Yehuda, previously we were going according to Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yehuda does hold migadas katsoy lebein hashmashos is katsoy lekula yoimam. The Rav, Rav Yehuda's fearly, and Rav was going like Rav Yehuda. He holds like Rav Yehuda, and he does hold a migadas katsoy. And Achanam mistaber. The Rav Rav Yehuda's fearly, and it's mistaber to say that Rav is Rav Yehuda. The Rav says, "Menich ner agabi dekel b'Shabbos." You can put a ner. You can put the receptacle with the light lit candle, with the light lit wick. You can put it on a tree. You put it on the tree before Shabbos, but for the purpose of remaining there on Shabbos, that's mutter. Menich ner agabi dekel b'Shabbos, ve'ein menich ner agabi dekel b'yontav. But to have the lit candle, the lit ner, and have it on the palm tree there, and burning on Yontav is awesome. Now, what's the issue over here? You're not allowed to use a tree. You're not allowed to use a tree. You're not allowed to climb on a tree or use a tree. We're afraid that you're going to cut something down from the tree. It's an Isser D'Rabbanan to use it. And we're afraid that if you have an item on the tree which is usable, you might come and climb the tree. So now, Rav says you can put the ner on the dekel on Shabbos because we're not afraid that you're going to climb the tree because the ner is muksa. And even when the flame goes out, even when it's extinguished, it's still muksa. So you're not going to use it. It's something, the ner is something that you can't use on Shabbos, so you do not have a usable item on the tree. You're not using the tree. But on Yontav, where it's not muksa, there you cannot put it on the tree, on the palm tree, because we're afraid you'll climb the tree, you'll use the tree. Now, Iyamad Bishlama, the Rav to Rav Yehuda's Firle, if you say that Rav was like Rav Yehuda, then Hainu Deshani Ben Shabbos Lo Yontav, now we understand the difference. Because if it's there on Shabbos, then Migades Katsoy Leben Hashmashos, it becomes muksa for the entire Shabbos. And even when the flame goes out, you won't climb the tree because the ner is muksa. So you don't have a usable item on the tree. You're not going to come to climb the tree. Therefore, Shabbos is mutter. But Yontav, where it's not muksa, you might come to climb the tree, to use the tree, because the ner is not muksa on Yontav. So there we see the difference between Shabbos and Yontav. But if you say that Rav holds like Rav Shimon, Mali Shabbos, Mali Yontav, what's the difference between the two? Because Rav Shimon does not hold a migas katsoy l'bein hashmash is kol kula yema. So even on Shabbos it should be also, because even though it's burning, it might be burning at the beginning of Shabbos, but at the point where the flame goes out, it's no longer muksa. So why are we not concerned that he'll come and climb the tree and use the tree? So Rav over here that made this distinction between Shabbos and Yontav, you see clearly that he holds like Rabbi Yehuda that on Shabbos it's muksa and migdis katsoy l'bein hashmashos, it's katsoy l'kula yoma, and therefore he's not going to use that candle that ner is muksa in any event is muksa, so he's not going to climb the tree. But on Yontav, where the ner is not muksa, he might come and use the tree. So you see clearly that Rav holds like Rabbi Yehuda, because according to Rav Shimon, there's no difference Shabbos and Yontav, because on Shabbos also we should be concerned that he will climb the tree, because once the flame goes out, according to Rav Shimon, the ner is no longer muksa, and he does not hold and therefore there should be no distinction between Shabbos and Yontav, and Shabbos it should be also to put the ner on the palm tree. So you see clearly that Rav holds like Rav Yehuda.